Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. Yep, in the Bullpen today, we have our dear friend, our brother from another mother. We have Shelley Wynter, conservative talk radio host extraordinaire, and also political pundit. Good day, sir. Welcome.
How are you, my brother?
I'm doing good, brother. All right, man.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. It's always good to see you, brother. So we're going to try to keep the train on the tracks, all right? We're going to make an attempt to do so. Naturally, the big news, and I'm actually happy they have somebody because at least legislation can move forward. But we're talking about Mike Johnson, Congressman Johnson, now Speaker of the House, all right? I don't want to presume what you know or believe about the new speaker. So if you would, give us your sentiment and I will then opine.
For 3 weeks, I've been hammering the Republicans on my show on 95.5 WSB radio here in Atlanta. I've been hammering them, calling them childish, calling them lack of leadership, calling them all sorts of names that we probably can't use on family television. I've been very critical of them. I was critical of them for getting rid of McCarthy and not having a plan B. I understand maybe you have some problems with McCarthy, but at least have a plan B. That way, when you vote to get rid of him, you have somebody waiting in the well to vote for them next and put them in, and we have no days off. So I was very unhappy for the last 3 weeks. I think Mike Johnson is the pick that people got tired of waiting, and his name and number came up at the right time for Republicans who were just tired of going through this process. And they were also hearing from a lot of their constituents and people like me who were tired of seeing nobody there, particularly with a war going on in the Middle East and no leader in the House here in Congress. So like you, I was very critical of them. I don't mind Mike Johnson. He's more conservative than a McCarthy. But McCarthy was called a conservative by the Democrats. So whoever's the Republican Speaker of the House is going to be called a Trump-supporting, MAGA-supporting conservative that's dangerous for democracy. Is Mike Johnson that? I don't think so. Are there some things that I disagree with him on? Absolutely. But I don't think that he is going to be this devil as a speaker that the Democrats are making him out to be. Although they would have made anybody out, they made Jordan to be that. If he would have won, Scalise, and on name the list, name the names.
Yeah, Republicans do that as well to
Absolutely.
Democratic leadership. It's the political interplay. But let's talk about Johnson outside of the branding and outside of the name calling. Let's talk about him practically as a policy leader as he is elected. It was his amicus brief, and this is the reason why people say he's basically a Trump acolyte. He's the guy, the only guy who filed an amicus brief. 2/3 of Republicans in Congress signed off on the amicus brief that provided the foundation or the legal platform to say that Donald Trump should remain in office because of these allegations of the election being stolen. Now I'm paraphrasing a very long brief. In your estimation of everything that happened, let me first ask this question. Did Trump have the election stolen from him and Biden is an illegitimate president?
No.
Okay.
No more than Democrats calling Trump and George W. Bush an illegitimate president.
Good enough.
Right. So
all right.
let's
so we'll agree.
Right.
Good.
Right.
We'll agree. Now, the guy who disagrees with you and who went before members of Congress, got them to sign it, filed it. He disagrees. He believes that Trump should be in power today.
I think something
contrary to the Constitution,
right?
Contrary to the will of the voter.
Right, I disagree with that. And that's
don't you think that's a big thing to disagree with?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'll tell you why. Tell you why. Because he wasn't the only one. And when you say
that's
got,
the reason?
Well, listen, I already agreed with you. So now let's go forward. Why it's not dangerous or not, you know, the spooky demon. Because like you said, you phrase it as he got 100 or 2/3 of the Republican House to agree with him. No, he didn't get them to agree with him.
He got them to sign it.
Well, they got
they endorsed the amicus brief,
right?
So this is outside of political conjecture.
Because they agreed with him. Many Republican voters to this day agree that Donald Trump had the election stolen from him, just like thousands of Democrats in the state of Georgia, many of them your friends and my friends, believe Stacey Abrams didn't lose twice, won twice. So there's this idea in this country where both sides believe when they lose an election that it's been stolen. I think it's incredibly dangerous for both sides to talk like that, because all you do is take the trust out of the system from regular voters.
Allow me to respond to that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I understand your point in a generalized tone, but we're talking specifically about an individual who becomes part of the line or the lineage to become president of the United States if the right people happen to either become unavailable or die, right? You also have a person who now is the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful positions naturally inside of the government. And one would argue that person has more power than a vice president of the United States has, given that power is only allocated by way of allowance through a president. So this person is not just the general public, is my point. And there are things that are accepted among the general public in our political discourse that we would say we choose not to have that same value system codified inside of one of our actual leaders, because now you are antithetical to the notion of democracy. Because if you agree, allow me to finish. If you agree that the election was not stolen, that democracy actually reigned and ruled, that people chose the election, but you have a guy who's now in governmental leadership elected by the same process known as democracy, saying, no. Forget what everyone said by way of their vote. Forget about the sentiment of the majority of the people of this country. Forget what the Constitution says. Forget what the law says. I want Trump to remain president. That is a problem when you contextualize that in the fact that he's a leader in the US Congress and now Speaker of the House.
That's none of that. All of that is pure hyperbole, sir. First of all, because the vice president certifies the election. So in 2025, if let's say the Democrat wins, all he can do is pontificate from his speaker's leadership position, because he is in no way, shape, or form there to certify the election. As a matter of fact, when Kamala Harris would be certifying the election, or whomever, she would be, because she would be the sitting vice president, she would be certifying the election for the Democrat if they were to win. He would be sitting behind her, as was Kevin McCarthy and those behind years past. So the point is that. So these ideas in our politics about people having thoughts about stolen elections, having thoughts about whether Ukraine should get funding or Israel should get funding, or whether Palestinians are the real victim. All of those ideas are held by all the members of the Congress, who all have an opportunity to be the Speaker of the House. The idea that because he's the third in line makes him more dangerous than the rest, I think it's fallacy. Do I agree with everything? I don't. But I like him as a speaker because finally, I believe conservatives have a voice in a leadership position. And I think that's the new thing. And that's what, as a pundit and as a conservative, I'm very interested to see how that plays out. Has his career been a talking game because he's in ruby red, solid red Louisiana, or is he really a conservative? And we'll find that out. I do like line item voting. I do want to see a vote for Ukraine funding separate than Israeli funding, separate than border funding. He's for that. Those things are everyday issues that regular voters can understand and agree or disagree with. I'm not going to get lost in the discussion on what he voted for, amicus brief, all that stuff. And it's fair. I'm not saying it's not a fair criticism. I'm just saying that I want to see going forward, is this guy going to be a speaker that's really a conservative and do conservative things? Because that's what the base really wants.
Yeah, I think he's a conservative that will do the things Trump tells him to do. And
I think that's demeaning. I think that's insulting and demeaning.
It's true, but
I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true.
Wait a minute, let me tell you why it's true. I'm going to tell you why it's true.
Because he was there before Trump.
I know that, everybody was.
Right.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Okay. So the amicus brief was filed directly because, this is according to Mike Johnson, the amicus brief was filed because Trump and him had a conversation. He literally said, I just had a conversation with Donald Trump yesterday. And out of that conversation sparked the amicus brief plan.
Because he already agreed with the election being stolen.
Okay, sir, you understand, wait a minute, sir.
I'm saying, but you understand all of this is because
what I just said was demeaning to Mr. Johnson. However, it was Congressman Johnson himself who said, I'm doing this because I have the blessing of Donald Trump. Donald Trump
because
also
they
endorsed
all agreed,
Johnson.
Because Donald Trump also endorsed Jim Jordan and he lost. Donald Trump,
I mean, that's an interesting dynamic, but that has nothing to do with the fact that this individual may simply do what
you would have said that about Jim Jordan or Steve Scalise. You said that about Kevin McCarthy. When Kevin McCarthy, when Kevin McCarthy was a House Speaker,
I thought Kevin McCarthy was a horrible representative, but I don't think he did simply everything.
You guys said he did. You guys said he did.
Come on, dear brother. I'm not generalizing what other people have said against you, dear brother. I can't answer for everybody in the world.
Fair enough. Right, and I can't answer for all Republicans. But
that's right.
Fair enough. Democrats said McCarthy was just a Trump acolyte. Every Republican that's come down to
politics, dear brother. We're talking about a man who.
But that's what you just said.
This man was literally willing to violate the fundamental principles of democracy. Our entire nation was actually using the legal.
No, he was actually using the legal foundations that a constitution allows us to do, which is challenge an election. That is constitution. It's in it. You can challenge an election.
Let's talk about the.
You can challenge an election. Now,
okay, you said it 3 times. I want to respond to that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. You can absolutely challenge an election. The amicus brief was more than just a challenge to an election. It was a challenge to democracy. It clearly shows, like you just said on my show, clearly the man was not elected for a second term. You, as an elected official who is empowered by the same system, will say, you know what? The people who elected me, forget y'all. I don't give a damn about you all's vote or how democracy actually works. I'm going to file this amicus brief saying that it shouldn't work that way in this case. You don't find that to be quite hypocritical and problematic?
That's not what the amicus brief. The amicus brief did not say that, and you know it. The amicus brief was filed to challenge the amicus brief. The amicus brief was filed to challenge the legitimacy of the election, meaning based on fraudulent election outcomes in several states.
That didn't exist.
Let me finish. And part of that was 4 states, all their Supreme Courts, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and I can't remember the 4th one, all changed their voting laws, the Supreme Court did, and not the state legislature. And that was the premise of all those amicus briefs, that states, Supreme Courts, judicial branches of state governments who are not empowered to change state law constitutionally, federal and state, only allow state legislatures to change election law. And so that was a challenge. That was the basis of these briefs.
Right.
And the Supreme Court struck them all down.
Right. So that's the point. So let me.
That's not the point because the Supreme Court struck down Roe.
The Supreme Court. My point.
Supreme Court. Wait, the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade, and we just had a big argument about it on several months ago. And you disagreed with the Supreme Court then. Now the Supreme Court knows what it's doing. Come on,
Wait a minute, dear brother.
Stay consistent. Stay consistent.
I'm extremely consistent, dear brother. Your games do not impact me, sir. You don't frame things for me. So let me
framed it yourself.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Let me respond to your initial proclamation about the amicus brief. The amicus brief was a frivolous lawsuit in every single sense of the word. And that frivolous lawsuit was kicked out on the merit that it had no merit. The reality is people voted. They voted based on the rules that were codified at that time. And the majority of the voters get their say, period. You're dismissed, goodbye. So let's come to the Roe v. Wade dynamic you just mentioned, because I do find it ironic. Do you agree that Mike Johnson is actually a conservative? Because it seemed like you were.
I said earlier, we'll find out if his rhetoric matches his leadership. Will those things match up? I do believe, based on his past policy positions, his past rhetoric, that he is a conservative. However, can a conservative, just like can a far left progressive, rule be Speaker of the House in such a divided partisan country? I don't think a hard right conservative can bring and galvanize Democrats to get bipartisan issues done. I think he's going to have to move a little bit more to the center. We'll see if he does that.
All right, so final, I'm getting to wrap up. I know it's almost time, and I appreciate you being on the show today, brother.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, because to me, this is the most problematic thing. If Donald Trump tells him to do the unthinkable, if Donald Trump tells him to do something that we all would agree on at this moment that it's illegal to do that, and Trump tells him to do it, knowing good and damn well Trump has a propensity to do things like that.
I'd be on your side of the fence with my picket, my pitchfork, my flaming, whatever you call those things, my signs, my everything. I'll be right there with you, and probably 70% of Republicans and conservatives, I won't say Republicans in this case, I'll say conservatives, would be right behind us.
I think that answer has integrity. I hope that 70% number is actually true.
Absolutely.
And I would say this about your character. I remember listening to you on your radio show, and you were critical of Trump because Trump started to come after the governor of Georgia, and you decided to make a stand. You said what you said. You meant what you said, and I could appreciate leadership on that. Now, as far as what you tap dancing around today, not so much. But
that's
but
racist, sir. I don't tap dance. I break dance, brother.
All right, brother. Always good to see you.
You too, my brother. Peace out.
Peace out.